Well, hi. How is everyone? So, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy New Year. It's 2026. So, how is everyone doing? Let's get some ones or twos or threes in the chat. Everybody doing pretty good? Yes, wonderful. And we have a hand up. Smirnova, do you have a comment?
Looks
Sorry,
like I want to translate.
She wants to translate. Okay, good. I think that would be wonderful. I will try to speak slowly. Remind me if I am not doing that. Okay. So, how many different language groups do we have? We have English, which is the teaching language. I see we have Russian and possibly Ukrainian. What?
In Russian and possibly Ukrainian is.
Oh, sorry, my computer is talking to me. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
And maybe in the chat, put your language group. So far, we have English, German, Russian,
English for me.
English. I think we have somebody, An Khan in Vietnamese. Are those the only languages we need? Speak now, or you might not get it.
We wait our interpreters into Russian. I try to touch her.
Okay, good. All right. But please, if we are not meeting your needs, chat with us or raise your hand or open your mics and share with us what you need. Okay? Because it's very hard to see all the faces or all the different languages. And if there is confusion, I want to be sure to address it. Okay. So we'll dive right in. Maybe we can have the first slide. The second one. Yes, that's a good one. All right, we call our course of study Organic Sanskrit because instead of addressing this language study in a typical fashion that you would find in a grammar book, we work in the Geshe Michael tradition. And Geshe Michael is always all about translation. So we address Sanskrit in terms of whatever the translation texts are presenting to us, not in a logical order, but in a more natural order. And also, this is a participation class, so you should get ready to participate. And we all get to not only speak in class, but please ask your questions as they come up. Don't wait. Okay, and apologies in advance. Our Geshe Michael tradition is an English language tradition. So I'm teaching in English, and I may use examples that are more suited to English than other languages. But I want to keep open the possibility of study groups in your language so that we can work through some of these examples in a different language. Okay? Okay, so everybody put away any paper or pens, any laptops, notebooks, pencils. You will need a paper and a pencil a little later, but not at this point. So no writing, okay? Everybody take a deep breath. Open your microphones and put the most primal sound you can imagine on this that we're going to do next. Take another deep breath and say with me, not that one. Yeah, that's the right slide. Keep it on the apple. Okay, so say with me with a deep breath, open mics. There you go. Oh, this is going to be a good class. Okay. Now, can we go around the room? I think we have 10 or 15 people. Can each person say that one at a time? Who's brave enough to start? Smirnova. Can you say Yes. How about Maria?
Oh.
So not so much as
Oh.
very primal, deep sound. Good. Who else is there? I don't see the faces. Can we get some other people to say that? One at a time. Good. Somebody else. One more. Come on. Great. All right. So this is why I call this class A is for apple. There is no A in Sanskrit. So let's have the next slide. This is a typical English word, cat. Ah. There is no sound like that in Sanskrit. It's So we would not say cat, we would say cut. We would not say apple, we would say apple. And this is something I want you to remember for the whole course. And if we actually get to read Sanskrit sometime, either in these classes or in one of the mixed nuts classes with Geshe Michael, you have to remember not to say ah, but always say Okay, let's have the next slide. This is the letter in Sanskrit. Isn't it beautiful? Such a beautiful looking language. Now let's try the next slide. Now here is a typical English sentence that's full of A's. But I would like us to say this sentence in English using a Sanskrit accent for the A's. So I'll go first. This sentence would sound like this with Sanskrit accent. The bug, pluck, cut, run across the buck yard, right? It sounds a little funny if you know English. And in study groups, if we have them, you could practice this with whatever the equivalent is in your own language. But here we're going to say the bud block cut run across the backyard. Okay, who is going to recite that for me? Who is the English speakers in the group? I cannot see your beautiful faces. Someone English speaking? I need a volunteer.
I can try.
Yes.
Hmm. The black out around across the back
Buck.
uh,
Hard one.
out
Yord. Yord.
your
Right. Yes. Very good.
pretty hard. Thank you.
Very good. But it just helps us to remember that in Sanskrit there is no ah. There's only Okay. Who is Yurku? Can you recite this in English with a Sanskrit accent? Open your mic. And if you don't wish to, just tell me. I will not force anyone to do anything they don't want. Anybody else?
Can I try?
Yes. One of you go first.
You go first.
Okay, I go first.
Yes.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. The but the blood cut run across the back yard.
Yord.
Yard.
Yord. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so
The next.
the bud block could run across the book yard.
That was very good. Yes. That all those sounds. Let's have the next slide. Okay, no exceptions in Sanskrit. So anytime you see that letter A, you're going to say, okay, are we all agreed? It's somewhat difficult to remember, but it's very important. All right. So let's get out some paper and a pen or a pencil or a marker. While you're doing that, I will mention that when you write Sanskrit in the proper alphabet, not the Roman alphabet, but the Sanskrit, it's similar to doing calligraphy. It involves a lot of brush strokes and a certain order in which you make the letters. So a nice brush style marker is fun if you're going to be serious about your Sanskrit and practicing it. I like these Japanese ones. They're called sakura. And they have you probably can't see it, but it's a brush tip for the marker. Where's the video? I think it's blocking me out. There it is. It's got a brush tip, so it's a little softer and it's a little bit more fun when you write Devanagari, which is the alphabet that Sanskrit is written in. So there's a German company, Stettler, that makes good ones also, and many others. You can find them online. So let's take the next slide. Oh, I just said that. So next one after that. Yes. So here is that beautiful letter and this is a graphic that indicates how you would make the marks. So you see, you start with one and you go around to the right and then down. Then the second stroke comes down and up. The third stroke connects to the fourth stroke, which is a straight line. And then the fifth stroke goes along the top. So we're going to take 2 minutes, take your paper and pencils, and practice writing this beautiful letter on your papers. Okay, so we'll pause for 2 minutes. Kadrin, do you have a question? Okay, try it a couple of more times and then we'll come back. All right, good. How did that go? Did you successfully make a couple of examples of this beautiful letter? Yes. In the chats, just say put ones if you were able to do a few of these. I don't see anything here. Good. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Okay. So you've made your first Devanagari letter. That is great. Let's have the next slide. Good. Okay. Here's a nice Sanskrit word. Sutra. Everybody say sutra.
Sutra.
Sutra. Good. Okay. So sutra has several different meanings. It is used for any words that the Buddha himself spoke. So you will hear things as we've studied, like the Heart Sutra, or the Diamond Cutter Sutra, or the Vinaya Sutra, many different sutras. It also literally means a thread. So if you were going to sew a button on your shirt, you would use sutra, thread. Now, the third sense here is the thread that connects the Sanskrit letters across the top, which you have probably seen if you have ever looked at any Sanskrit. So some of the letters break the line, the sutra, but most of them are written completely underneath it. And they connect to the sutra by the tops of the letters themselves, or sometimes there's a short upward or downward stroke that connects them. Now, another thing about how Sanskrit is written is that normally it's all written in one long string. So in our modern languages, almost all of them, I think, we break the writing up into words. Not so much in Sanskrit. It's written all in one piece until you get to the end of the paper on that line. Then you just start at the beginning on the next line and write everything out in one connected strand. So originally, many, many, many years ago, thousands of years ago, this was done to save paper because paper was very precious. But it does make it very challenging for us as we study to really understand where one word ends and the next one begins. Imagine if you saw your own language written that way. So let's have the next slide. So here is how Sanskrit is typically written. I'm sorry, that's a little bit blurry, but you can get a sense of how there are not too many breaks. There are a couple. You see one in the first line where there's a white space and one after that, but not too many other ones there. Okay. Now, this is a verse from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, and it's chapter 10, verse 55. And what I've put there on the very bottom is I took one of the lines and I wrote it in modern Devanagari. And again, just to remind you, Devanagari is the alphabet, we'll call it that for the moment, in which Sanskrit is typically written. So you can see what it looks like when you break it up into words. And we'll be studying that kind of thing. We will learn, maybe not in course 1, a little bit maybe, but certainly in course 2, how to take a long line of Sanskrit like that and break it up into different words. It's very challenging. Okay, let's try the next line. So just to test ourselves, let's see if you can read these easily. One is in English and one is my bad attempt at a different language, which maybe you will recognize, some of you. So if you saw that first line and you were an English speaker or you knew English, it would be a little challenging to read it and break it up into words, right? And who can recognize the second line there? Anybody? What language is that supposed to be? It's not written in its proper alphabet. Nope, not Sanskrit.
I think I can read it.
Okay, go ahead.
So which line would you like me to read? The first one or the second one?
Second one.
The second one. Как ты поживаешь?
Anybody recognize that? That's just me trying to make a Russian sentence into one long word. I probably transliterated it incorrectly, but you get the idea. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's a bunch of words, and they all have a lot of A's in them. And I think I chose them because I hope they may be familiar to you if you have studied much in our tradition. So, who can say the first word for us? Remember how to say that letter A. Who's going to be brave? Say that again. Idam. Idam.
Idam.
Idam.
Idam.
Yes. All right. Somebody else say the second word.
Ratna.
Yes.
Ratna.
Ratna. Ratna. Very good. And the third word.
Mundala.
Mundala. Great. Very good. Mundala. Mandala. And what about that long one, the fourth one there?
Naryatayami.
Perfect. Niryatayami. So I don't know if you recognize these words, but Idam Ratna Mandala Niryatayami is one of the prayers we say when we are making a dedication. Idam Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Idam Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. So that is something that is familiar to some of us who study in this tradition. Now, what about that next word?
Savasana.
Very good. And that was a funny mark on the S, the first S, which means it's a sh. So, Shavasana. And you may have heard that if you ever do any yoga. It's actually the word for corpse pose. And Shava literally means corpse, and asana means pose. So Shavasana. All right, what about the next one? That's a very famous one.
Vajra.
I want more more
Vajra.
Vajra. Vajra.
Vajra.
Are you Vajra? Yeah, Vajra. So are any of you guys familiar with an American candy which is made of chocolate and syrup, and it's called fudge? Have you heard of fudge?
Yes.
So this word to me, when we say it properly in Sanskrit, sounds almost like it rhymes with fudge because it's vajra. Vajra. It's not vajra. It's vajra. So everybody say vajra a couple more times.
Vajra.
Vajra.
Vajra. Vajra. Vajra. Vajra. Vajra. Vajra.
Yes.
Vajra.
Great. Now the next one is a person that many of us are familiar with. He's a very famous master of Buddhism, and his name is Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna. Say that word in Sanskrit, everybody.
Nagarjuna.
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 Oh, Nagarjuna. No.
Nagarjuna.
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 Excellent. So now, when you're in your study, Nagarjuna, when you're in your study classes, you can help your fellow students who are not studying Sanskrit to pronounce these things correctly. You have to be very cautious, though, because sometimes people don't want to be corrected, but at least you can offer to share with them the correct pronunciation. And I always think Nagarjuna is a very interesting name because Naga is a kind of snake. Sometimes we translate it as a dragon, and Arjuna is white. So this master's name literally means white snake. So it's kind of cool to know that. Now, what is that next to last word there? Somebody say that one for us.
Rasa.
Rasa. Rasa. Very good. Rasa. And that
Rasa.
Rasa. Good.
Rasa.
Yeah. Rasa.
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 Yes.
Yes.
And that is a word that means taste. And there's a famous Sanskrit phrase, eka rasa, eka rasa, which means one taste. And that is when, division is removed and everything has a single taste. It's a philosophical term. Okay. And the last one there is something that is very near and dear to Geshe Michael's heart. And this is the correct way to say the word bliss in Sanskrit. And we'll learn this more formally later, but the long mark over that first A means that you hold it for 2 beats. So you have to say Ananda. Can everyone say
Ananda.
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 Yes, and I'll break out my drum here for the first time so we can get a sense. Here's a beautiful Native American drum. And basically we want to hold the first syllable for 2 beats and the second syllable for 1 beat and the third syllable for 1 beat. So we want a sound that goes like Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. So it's just as important to shorten the second and third syllables as it is to extend the first syllable. So practice saying that. Ananda.
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 That is great. Now, are you beginning to get a sense of how different Sanskrit sounds when you know how to pronounce it? It's not the way it looks on paper, and it's not necessarily the way it sounds in our own native languages if we just say the syllables. There's a way to do it properly that makes it sound very much different from what you might expect in many cases. Okay, let's have the next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about transliteration because we practiced the first letter, the and we saw what it looks like in Devanagari. But we have just been looking at Sanskrit words in the Roman alphabet. So we use a system in our tradition called IAST. IAST is the acronym. And that stands for the International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration. And that was invented in about 1894. And it is our transliteration system of choice. There are other systems, but Geshe Michael uses this one. And I personally like it the best as well. And we will learn it organically as we go through our classes. So the second most popular transliteration system is called iTrans. And it was invented probably 30 or 40 years ago to take into consideration typing Sanskrit into a computer because the keyboards don't have all the marks that the IAST transliteration system requires. So iTrans was invented. It's ASCII based on characters. So it uses only symbols that are on the computer. So for instance, a long instead of having an A with a line over it, it would have either a capital A or two A's. And that would be how you would write it in ASCII. But we won't worry too much about that. And the third type of transliteration that we will run into is Geshe Michael's system of what he calls everyday language transliteration. And this is a way of writing Sanskrit in Roman characters for people who are not studying Sanskrit and don't care about the important differences that we are going to learn about. For instance, in everyday transliteration, you would not have a long mark over the A in Ananda, so you wouldn't know how to pronounce it properly. But you would be able to sort of pronounce it roughly so that it would be understandable, although it's not too helpful if you're trying to translate something. One interesting thing is that if you say it properly, Ananda, this is a word that means bliss. But if you say it improperly, Ananda or Ananda or Ananda or something, it means grief. So there's a big difference. If you say it properly, Ananda versus Ananda, which is grief. But we won't really need to learn everyday transliteration in this class. I just want you to know about it in case you're in a mixed nuts class or a Diamond Mountain retreat and you see some Sanskrit that looks incorrect to you. It's probably because it's an everyday transliteration. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, this is very important. Our primary purpose in Sanskrit, Organic Sanskrit 1, is going to be proper pronunciation. So we need to learn the 5 mouth positions in Sanskrit. And this has to do with where you put your tongue when you're saying something. So the first position, which you see on that skull drawing, is way in the back of your throat, is called the guttural position. And that is when you take your tongue and you fold it in half and you stick it way back down into your throat. So we'll get some examples in a minute, but I just want to tell you where these positions are. The second position is called palatal, and you take your tongue and you make it sort of flat and you put it on that little bump near the back of the roof of your mouth. So that's palatal. The third position is cerebral. And here you take the tip of your tongue and you put it straight up against the roof of your mouth, sort of like it's going up into your brain, which is what cerebral means. So you just put the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth and you use a sound there. The fourth position is something that's more familiar to modern language speakers. And in this position, you put the tip of your tongue against that little ridge above your front teeth in the back. So it's more normal for us modern language speakers. And the fifth position is labial, which comes from the Latin for lips, labia, and that is where you use your lips to make one or the other of the sounds. Okay, let's go to the next slide. In Sanskrit, there are 16 vowels. There are 25 main consonants. There are 4 semivowels, 4 sibilants, and 2 very common compound consonants, which are not any one of these things. So there's about 51 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. And each one of them has a mouth position. It's either going to be way in the back of your throat, guttural, position 1, on the top of that bump in the back of your roof of your mouth, position 2, palatal. Straight up into your brain, position 3, cerebral. Against the ridge behind your front teeth, dental. Or using your lips, labial. So let's go to the next slide. So here are the vowels, 5 of the simple vowels. The is a guttural sound, and we've already spent a good amount of time learning that one. So everybody take your tongue, fold it in half, stick it way down the back of your throat, and say, Yes. Great. So you see, this is the technicality of what we were just practicing instinctively. That's how you say a guttural letter. Now, the letter I in Sanskrit is pronounced I, and that is a palatal sound. So everybody fold your tongue flat, put it on that little bump near the back of the roof of your mouth, and say, Good. That's good. Yes. And that is a sound, for instance, in Sanskrit. So it's an it. Good. Now, number 3 is interesting because in Sanskrit, the letter R can be a vowel. So when you say this letter, which sounds like R, you put your tip of your tongue on the center top of your mouth up into your brain and you say R, R. Can you say R? Very good. So you've just pronounced one of the most challenging psychological sounds in Sanskrit, because a lot of people have difficulty comprehending that can be a vowel, but you just said it beautifully. So I just want to caution, especially the Russian and Spanish speakers, not too much rolling. It's more of almost a French sound. So you roll the R a little bit, but not too much. When we get to the consonants, you'll roll it more. All right, the 4th mouth position is dental. And one of the other unusual vowels in Sanskrit is the letter L can be a vowel. And the way you say that is lir, lir. So put the tip of your tongue against that ridge behind your front teeth and say lir. And that in the word, that comes in the word, the noun Kalpa, which means eon, very long time. Kalpa.
Kalpa.
Yeah,
Kalpa.
good.
Kalpa.
Kalpa.
Very good.
Kalpa.
All right, and the last one is labial, which is when you use your mouth or your lips on the external part of it. And that letter, that vowel is oo. So in Sanskrit, it's not you or it's oo. So put your
Ooh.
hands together and say ooh.
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 Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
Good. So there, you don't use your tongue with a labial sound. You just use your lips. Good. Okay. So let's have the next slide. So one of the other things about organic Sanskrit is that we are studying Sanskrit according to Geshe Michael's tradition. So we have our own Sanskrit lineage. Now, many people teach Sanskrit across the world. Very few of them are centered or oriented to Buddhism. And many of them have their own systems or ways of teaching and learning and different traditions. So there may be slight variations between different traditions of teaching Sanskrit. And we are going to use Geshe Michael's tradition. So he studied Sanskrit with Professor Samuel Atkins at Princeton when he was a student there. And you will hear him talk a lot about Professor Atkins and stories about how he studied with him. But Professor Atkins was a student of Franklin Edgerton, and he lived from 1885 to, I think, 1963. And Edgerton was a student of Dwight Whitney. And Whitney was one of the first American Sanskrit scholars. And our tradition with Geshe Michael is an American tradition. So Whitney lived a long time ago, 1827 to 1894, and he was a scholar of the Hindu Vedas with a special focus on the Atharva Veda, which was written about 1200 BC. Now, why do I bring all this up? Let's go to the next slide, please. So here's a timeline, and it's not very scientific. It's just my attempt at a graphic. If anybody ever wants to make better graphics, please feel free and send them to me. But if we start on the right, we see here is us. We are in 2026. And if you go all the way back to about 1350 Common Era, you find an English poet called Chaucer. And then all the way back another 1300 years to the time of Christ, around the year 0. And then before that, back in before the Christian era, we have a very famous Sanskrit grammarian called Panini. And he created a grammar of classical Sanskrit. Now you can see that he was about the time of Lord Buddha. But Whitney, in our Sanskrit lineage, was a student of the Vedas. And look at the time difference between Lord Buddha and the Atharva Veda that Whitney studied. Quite a long time. Almost the same amount of time, I think, although math is not my strongest point, as between Chaucer and us. So if I said to you, Juandata pril with the shore sota, the drokta of marcha terse to the rota, what language would you say I was speaking? It's not Sanskrit. Yes. Who's that? Was that Marina or Amirta? That's English. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, let's see the next slide. Oh, sorry, no, back one. I must have deleted that. The reason I wanted to bring it up is that there's a fairly big difference between the Buddhist Sanskrit, which we are going to be studying, and Vedic Sanskrit, which is what Whitney studied and taught. So there may be a few variations along the course of our studies, both in these classes and when you listen to Geshe Michael teach, between the Vedic Sanskrit of Professor Whitney and the classical Sanskrit, which was more like what the Buddha spoke. So we'll work with that. But if you notice any distinguishing issues, that is why there are some differences. Okay, let's review. Now we can have the next slide. So the guttural sound, which is where do you put your throat? I mean, where do you put your tongue? The first position, the first mouth position in Sanskrit. Where is that in your skull? Think of that picture of the skull. Way back. Yes. You fold it in half and you stuff it down your throat and you say, Everybody say, All right, good. And now what about palatal? Where is the mouth position for palatal? Yes, be brave. Yeah, but where do you put where do you put your tongue?
Back up.
Not all the way back, but on that little bump, which is actually, I think it's called your hard palate. So, that's the letter I. Yes, and cerebral, where does your tongue go in the cerebral position, which is position 3? Straight up into your brain. Yes. And you're going to say this vowel how? Er. And the fourth position, where is your tongue there?
Just behind the teeth.
Yes, behind your teeth. And that would be the vowel lr, 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 lr. And the labial position, where is your tongue?
We don't use it.
Don't use it. Okay, perfect. What do you use instead?
Lips.
Lips. Okay, and how do we pronounce this vowel in Sanskrit? Exactly. Very good. Okay, that's excellent. And I want to warn you a little bit not to try to connect these sounds to your language, because you will get in trouble later. Just try to forget your language and think of this first letter as the second one is the third one is lir, and u. Don't say, oh, it's like such and such in my language, because later it will get much more too confusing. All right, let's have the next slide. We just have a few more minutes, and I want to introduce this issue to you. Here are two nice Sanskrit words, guna and vrdi. So say guna.
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 And Verdi. Verdi.
Verdi.
Good.
Verdi.
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 Okay, so we can translate guna as meaning strengthened, and we can translate Verdi as increased. And these explain the extra vowels in the 16, because as you see, we've only had 5 so far, and there are 16. So the vowel A and the vowel O are guna. So A, so this is why I don't want you to connect it to that letter in your language, is the and the I. So it's A. The O is the and the U. So it's O. And then the last 2 are Verdi, which are increased even more. And these are the 2 vowel sounds I and ow. So I is the plus the A that we just heard about. I. And ow is the plus the O that we just heard about. Ow. So we have the 5 simple vowels, and then we have these 4. So now we have 9 that we know, and we have to learn a few more, but that's enough almost for today. Now I'm going to give you the total 16 on the next slide. There we go. So we have and long and short. So again, the is 1 beat, the is 2. I and I, U and U, and lir and lir. Now these are all 2 beats. A, I, O, ow. And then we have 2 more, and So these are sounds you make with your lips and in the back of your throat. So in the few remaining moments to us, let's go through and all recite these 16 vowels. Okay, recite with me.
I,
Ooh.
O,
R.
R,
Lir.
lir, lir,
A.
E,
I.
I,
O.
O,
Ow.
ow,
Like a buzzing sound.
aha,
Great. Okay. All right, those are 16 vowels, and we'll talk a lot more about them next time. And let's have the last slide. Thank you. I am so grateful that you are interested in homework. So, I mean, not homework, in Sanskrit. I was just looking at my homework note. So, thank you for doing this. You are helping to spread the Dharma across the world. It's a really beautiful thing you're doing. Please dedicate. Now, next time our class will focus on the long and the short vowels. No homework, so ignore that optional homework because we didn't get to that piece today. But I will see you, I hope, next week at 4 o'clock Arizona time. And I am very grateful for your interest in Sanskrit. Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you. Please keep teaching us. Thank you, teacher. Thank you, Mr. Tan. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
Thank
you. 感
Okay.
谢。
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
拜，再见。
Thank you, all interpreters, for joining us.